Nothing wrong with being a rolling stone as long as he's tumbling into the right places. Instead of his head hanging low, he had his fist held high, and I know he sat and he cried, and at times he slept on park benches, oldest daughter leaving her comfortable bed to pretend, just for a moment, what it was to be homeless. Closet became that park bench. Warm blanket became newspaper. Dad's face on the front page, speaking on behalf of the people. My anger became pride. Although my papa was a rolling stone, he never left us for another home. Not drugs, jail, women, or booze. He stayed on the move, because movement was all he knew.
From Harlem, Montana, and I'm gonna try to make a movie here. Somebody's asking what time it is. It's Indian time. And
4 generations of his mother's
there used to be a bench
are buried
here.
on the Fort Belknap Indian
They took the bench away.
near Harlem, Montana. He has lived off the reservation for 20 years.
A lot of Indians used to sit right here. So I'm gonna make a movie. It's gonna be called Harlem Indian. It's about it's gonna be about Indians like myself.
The practice of making American Indians enroll with the tribe was imposed by the federal government in the late 1800s
get together over this.
when the United States subjugated the tribes.
When I was in 4th grade, my great-grandmother left me some land. And I wasn't enrolled, so I couldn't have that land. I couldn't own it because I'm not enough of a certain degree of Indian blood. Because the Indians only recognize the blood from their own tribe or reservation. And this was a form of genocide created by the non-Indians to try to eliminate us.
I have a piece of paper that tells everybody I am 100% pure-blooded Indian woman. I don't need no one coming in here taking what belongs to me.
I've known a lot of folks that have been really, really criticized and put down in the community just for the way they look. A friend of mine who's Shawnee, he's Eastern Shawnee, when he goes back out home and he goes into the tribal office, almost everybody there, blonde hair, blue eyes.
Oh, I don't want to be interviewed on
No, do it because it has to come from a lot of different looks and faces.
Well, no, I can't. I can't.
How come?
I can't.
White skin, it's just, you know, over time we've just brought in these other genetics, and to me it doesn't, I don't know how to explain it, but.
And let me just tell you a story of the realization of this craziness when we began to separate each other. When we began to say, well, you're only part Indian, or you're this Indian, or wow, you have this other blood running through your blood veins, et cetera, et cetera. And so I was on an airplane about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And I was way up in the sky, and I looked out the window, and you know, that's the best place to talk to God, when you're 40,000 feet up in the sky. And you have God's undivided attention. And one of the things that I always pray, and talking is praying to God. You know, people say pray, so I talk. Anyway, I always look at the airplane, and there was about 90% of the people on the airplane are white people, Washijus. And so across the aisle for me was a really handsome African-American man with long legs, and he was just a nice human specimen. And I looked at him and I asked myself the question, what if I ever in my lifetime fell in love with an African-American man? And would I, if I was younger, I'm 61 now, but when I was younger and I had eggs, would I have had an opportunity to procreate with this man to create a human being. And that human being would be Lakota, African American, and all the other blood that runs through my system. Well, in talking to God, I asked the question. I said, Creator God, I said, why did you make us all different colors? And Creator God said, he said, you're thinking about that black man across from me. I said, yeah. He said, he said, this airplane is full of, there's a lot of white women on this airplane of childbearing age. And this black man's sperm can penetrate the egg of any one of these women on this plane, regardless of what color they are, and a human being will be created. So at the molecular level, the sperm and the egg have no color. They're transparent. And what the realization came to me, that if the Creator did not want to procreate, he would have, or she would have put some kind of chemical in my egg as an Indian woman that prevented fertilization to take place from the egg of a black man. The sperm of a black man. He would have put some kind of chemical in the egg of a white woman to prevent the sperm of any color man except the white man to penetrate that egg and create a human being. So I guess in talking to Creator about this, to me it's not about color, it's not about blood quantum, it's about how you self-identify. There are many Indians, and people talk about full-blooded Indians, it sounds like a dog, or a donkey, or a racehorse. If you're a full-blood, you're thoroughbred, So the label that was put on us to determine how much Indian we were or are was not of our doing. That was of the colonizers. That was of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And it was a way to control the people, control ourselves. And what's so sad is we bought into it lock, stock, and barrel. We bought into this definition of who we are by a group of white people.
You need to know who you are, where you ccame from. You're thinking, what we've taken is, we've learned from seven generations ago, our elders fought that sovereignty that was bestowed upon the Indian nations all across the land, where you came from and what you're set on this earth to do.
My grandmother, one of the things that she really stressed and emphasized to me growing up as a child was that I don't ever want to hear you say walla 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 walla. And to her, that's what the English language sounds like, because she only understands and speaks the Navajo language. And so, she would say, "Shiyaja hala o walla 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 de no na na." I taught you to speak the Navajo language. You continue to speak it because that's who you are, that's your foundation, and that's what's going to get you through life. And it has, it really has.
Accomplishment. I think that's what tribal nations are all about. And one of the things that really tears me up is the fact that, people say we've bestowed power, or we've given you an opportunity to use your sovereignty, or we've given you sovereignty. And that happens in Iraq. People are talking about, governmental officials are talking about, we bestow sovereignty. We give them the sovereignty, and that's the worst thing that people can say. That the sovereignty came as a result of the Creator and no one else. And so how can we push anything lower than that? And I think that it's important to understand that that's what we mean when we talk about sovereignty. And the other thing is that, I really feel bad when we have Indian kids that are of not just one nation, but of two nations or three or four. And my kids are in that situation right now. It should be nobody else's business on where they want to be enrolled.
Fight them today. We caught a glimpse of the world before corruption of hate. Still functioning on self-destruction, only some can relate. It's buried deep in my mind. Someday our people will rise above the misconceived beliefs and stop believing the lies. We see it in their eyes. They trapped in webs of deceit. I'll take revolt with the rebels over their pledge and allegiance. We've been led to believe we hopeless and will never be free. I'd rather die standing fighting than to live on my knees. We see our people lonely, only to cherish the dream of America where apparently they bury beliefs underneath.
They ought to be able to enroll in Okewinge as well as the Eastern Band of Cherokee. And it shouldn't be the federal government or anybody else telling us you should only enroll in this one or you should only be allowed to enroll in this tribe. And it's not their call. And I think that if we start doing that, what we're doing is we're diminishing our resource base. And our resource base is our children and their children and their children and their children. And so when we talk about survival of the Indian nations, we've got to think way, way, way ahead. And granted that all of the things that are happening are present day issues, but they became present day issues because a lot of it didn't get taken care of, mostly because, number one, we weren't as active, we weren't politically active, we weren't as active in the voting arena, and so I think that now we know where we need to concentrate. And so all the efforts that we're putting together, it makes sense that we got to know the system because we got to survive in this country as well as we got to survive in our own worlds with our own issues, but we cannot put aside our language, our culture, and our tradition. That's the number one. That's why we were put on this earth. And if we're going to survive, we have to know that. And we cannot say, oh, that comes secondary. Or we can't say we only concentrate on this piece and forget about all of the external forces because we aren't isolated by any means. We're a part of this nation. And if we're going to be an active part of this nation to also provide solutions for this nation, we also have to have a voice. And the only way we're going to have a voice is for us to be active. And
came back and asked us who we are. Would we be too far gone to recognize them through the stars and the stripes of the flag, living our lives as they say? If our ancestors came back, would we fight them today? If our ancestors came back and asked us who we are, would we be too far gone to recognize them through the stars and the stripes of the flag, living our lives as they say? If our ancestors came back, would we fight them today? Now tell me if we seen them with freedom be in our hearts, or would we find ways to enslave them and keeping them apart? If they seen us and how we living, we make an impression. They be on reses on our reses in the way of our progression. We live like oppressors, least as close it gets. Some remember our ancestors that some chose to forget. Imagine if they walked with us and we rose to be a threat and once more embody the beings we supposed to be again. If they spoke in native tongues, would we even understand what our new native warriors then turned the gun on them? And if our ancestors came back and embraced with open arms, we'd be afraid to be embraced or reminded of who we are. Maybe they already here, we just don't want to.
And they fought because of something they believed in, and that is that sovereign power.